Welcome to X Rock 2025 live stream edition. No, nobody else gonna claim on that? Okay, it's fine. I thought it was cool. I'm all
I
right.
liked it. When we're working on our new setup that
Could be
we're going to
sponsored
put
by
that on.
Monster.
Or my big pink jug with water. We have a couple people on. We're going to give them a few more minutes or a few more seconds. We'll jump into it.
Who's excited to see the rest of the season? I know I am. The big scary quiet guy over there in the corner.
Oh, I'm just waiting for Tiff. She better get intro and hold it in. Protocols, buddy, protocols. Don't want to mess up the flow of this.
Smack them around.
Virtual punch.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to X Rock Extreme Podcast. My name is Tiffany Andrews, and we are brought to you by our amazing 2025 sponsors with JM Rigging, Mother's Off-Road Recovery,
What?
386 Tab, Radial Dynamics, Wheeling for Warriors, and Kincaid Fabrication. Tonight, I have my amazing co-host, Cord Reside of
What's
Mother's
happening?
Off-Road Recovery, and Mr. X Rock himself, Hans Scherer.
Evening, folks.
Very
Don't
monotone
mind
there.
the
buddy.
monotone. Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
So, Hans, we just got back. Well, you guys literally just got back last week from California. And
Yep.
let's kind of talk about all that stuff.
Yeah, fresh off the KOH event that we had, which was our first time doing an event out at KOH. First things first, I want to thank Dave Cole and the BLM for those opportunities to do that. Dave wanted us to come out and do an event like the year before, and it was just too short notice for me to make it work. As you guys know, I pride ourselves on traveling with all our people. And to try and put that together, I needed to make sure that you guys wanted to take the time. This is a big commitment for us being from the East Coast, to go out there. And heck, Cord and me, it took us close to a month, 3 weeks plus of driving and setup and all that stuff. But yeah, so we decided we'd push it to 2025 and we'd do it as the opening event for 2025. And I feel that it worked out pretty well. Us being from the East Coast, we've never dealt with the BLM before because we don't have, federal BLM land here on the East Coast. But they made that real straightforward and they were great to work with. So yeah, thanks Dave and all his people and the BLM folks, Dana and all them for helping us facilitate that. And, turned out to be a pretty good event in my opinion. What'd you think, Cord?
I think it was great. Getting the blessing from Dave to come out and do one at King of the Hammers was one of the best things we've ever got to do. Honestly, I think the people, the camaraderie, all the fun. I enjoyed the vacation, the work vacation. I guess the best way to put that.
Workcation.
Yeah, workcation because I was not working my normal job, but it was fun going out and got to enjoy a lot. Got to meet a lot of new friends and did a lot of cool things. So I was super stoked about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest stage in off-roading. Realistically, I don't know that there's anything bigger. Baja's pretty big and Mint 400's big. There's a couple big events in the mud bog world, maybe Paris Dakar Rally and WRC. But I mean, realistically, KOH has got to be, if not the single biggest off-road event in the world, certainly up there and darn close. I mean, you look at the number of people that were out there on the lake bed. You get up on the mountain and you're wheeling at night and you look down, it looks like you're in an airplane landing in a major city. I mean, it's completely ridiculous to see how big that area has become out there. So super cool. Event wise itself, X-Rock's hard. The event went well. And we got a lot of guys who like the hard extreme terrain. I always, reference X Rock as the F1 of rock crawling, and I don't know that anybody would argue with that. It's we're after the guys who are the pinnacle of the sport, who do this stuff and want to run the extreme terrain and push the sport forward. Trying these obstacles that may or may not be drivable. They go out and do this stuff themselves when nobody's looking, but when the camera's on them, that's when they really get to shine. So it's not for everybody, but I've heard nothing but positive feedback, even from like internet trolls. I mean, guys were talking about how they feel that the extra, first Matt Merrick, a busted knuckle, put up that poster. He's like, oh, they're replacing bouncers with rock crawling. That's going to be lame and blah, blah, blah. Everybody said, man, that was better than the shootout. Like X Rock was extremely entertaining to watch. So you can't ask for much more than that. You get like a forum with regular people on the internet posting, they're brutal, man. They'll rip you apart. And everything I saw was positive. So I said, seemed to be very, very well received. And I think that shows the strength of the X Rock product and what we have to offer for growing rock crawling in the future moving forward.
I
I
do want to
also
say
think,
about like John, like Mad Cow's on, and he said about like now we feel their pain when it comes to travel with distance and times and funds and everything else, that it's a lot to manage.
Yeah, for sure. You're not kidding, John. It's a lot, especially driving. When you have to be in a tractor trailer for weeks straight doing this, that, and the other thing, living out of that. And
God love
it's a
Cord.
lot. Yeah, I don't know
well,
how he puts up with me for.
that wasn't that bad until we hit the snow on the way home.
Yeah, that
The
was
last
rough too.
9 hours of driving that it should have been took 14 and a half hours because of snow and feeling like I was in Star Wars warp tunnel the whole time. That
Yeah,
that that got to me pretty hard. But I want to say, like, it was one of the cool things about KOH and being out there is the fact that we got to bring the backbone of crawling back to KOH. We,
yeah,
you know,
for
that's what
sure.
started KOH was a bunch of rock crawlers out in Johnson Valley, and they decided to race through the trails and see who could do it the fastest. And now it has grown into the sport that it is. So it's really cool to bring you know, obviously the cars are a little different nowadays, but it's cool to bring that back to King of the Hammers.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're a little younger, Cord, but I mean, all those guys, Shannon Campbell, Derek West, Lauren Healy, all these guys, they started rock crawling. The whole thing, they were all hardcore rock crawling guys that, ultimately moved in that direction of doing the go fast stuff when Ultra 4 became a thing. So, yeah, the
Yep.
roots of it, 100%, definitely based in rock crawling for sure. So it was good to do, and they got good stuff out there for it. We just had to find something that was relatively close that had those big monolithic type of boulder lines that we need. And luckily, we were able to find something that was only 2 miles or so, I'd say, from Hammertown. So it worked
Easy
out
enough
pretty
to
well.
get a rental stock truck out there.
Yeah, you can get anything out there. It's basically sand. And the nice thing about the reason I chose that spot is it's not on the top of a mountain. There's a lot of big stuff like that, if you go up on the tops of the mountains, but it's a pain in the neck to get spectators to. It's pain for recovery. And then you're going to have rollovers. I mean, this is extreme rock crawling. You don't want guys rolling 15, 20 times down the whole side of the mountain. We're trying to avoid that. So that spot works pretty good for a multitude of reasons, I think. And yeah, we're growing the sport. That's always my goal. And for this season especially, we're pushing, and that's why we started with KOH, and we have some other big events and things that we're doing. It's always how I look at things: is how can we grow the sport? What can we do to move the sport forward? Semper Diempkis, right? That's always forward. That's my motto for everything we do, man. Always forward. And like Tiffany said, we couldn't do this without our sponsors, one of which is here with us tonight. Cord obviously does double duty as a sponsor and helping us actually put on the events, as does Jim Markham and Eric Amato. They were both out during the event, putting in work, photographing and helping with recovery and things like that. But all of our guys, jam rigging, mothers, as I said, Radio Dynamics, 386 Fab. Wheeling for Warriors is Mark St. Germain. That's a great operation there out of the Northeast in New England. And Kincaid Fabrication. Tiffany's boyfriend, Chris, has been a longtime friend of mine. He does our trophies, and man, they were nice. I'll tell you, if anybody got a chance to take a look at those trophies, they came out really good, in my opinion. Nice polished aluminum, really slick. So
He has a new plan. I mean, I think you've seen the next plan for our next event, but he's trying to up his game, and as we grow forward, he's going to grow forward with these trophies as well.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Chris always comes up with good stuff every year for the trophies, and I appreciate that, and I thank him for everything. But yeah, growth is the name of the game. And the one thing I want to touch on, well, we're talking about growth. I mean, we're doing everything in our power to move the sport forward. As you guys know, it's always my goal. But there are a couple things that are outside of our control, and I do want to touch on one of those things because it's important. That being our competitors association. So as you guys know, I've been beating this drum of needing a competitors association and all the benefits that it has. And I'm not going to go through all those right now because there's whole other podcasts dedicated to that if you go back. But anyway, I think everyone would agree it's incredibly important that we have a functional competitors association. We worked really hard to put one together last year. It lasted for like 3 months, and then everybody that was involved decided they were frustrated, it was too much work or whatever, they weren't getting what they wanted out of it, and they quit. That is killing us as far as forward progress. So I'm here today to ask you guys, I mean, if there's anyone who is interested in taking the reins of the Competitors Association, who's a competitor, obviously you have to be an X-Rock competitor to do this sort of thing. That's the point of it. But we need that organization, and I can't do it. I have to be hands-on. That's the whole point of this. But if you look at every major sport, like Major League Baseball has the MLBPA, Players Association. Basketball, NBA has the NBPA. Hockey has the NHLPA. It's just how you do this. So I need to have that organization and structure for us to be able to grow the sport and move it forward in an organized fashion. There has to be a unified voice for the competitors because it's not sustainable. We look at what we've done for the past however many years, 15, 20 years, where we're stuck in this rut where we can't move forward. I can't have Guy A called me after an event and say, if you don't change the rules to what I want, then I'm not coming out next time. And then have Guy B say, if you change the rules and give Guy A what he wants, then I'm not coming out next time. You know what I mean? And 3 other people say, oh, this is stupid. We're not dealing with this. We're not coming out. That's attrition and moving the opposite way. It fights growth, and it's just not what we need. And that's what holds us back. You know what I mean? We can't have that. You don't have that in NASCAR. You don't have that in, like I said, Major League Baseball. You don't have that. So, we need to get this competitors association going. It's important. As I said, there's 1,000,001 things we can do with it. It's out of my hands, and I have to be hands off with this. However, you guys would be working directly with me as far as, discussing things like rule changes and venues and things like that. So anyone who wants to get involved with that, reach out to me, and we can try and get that going again. The bones for it are all there. It has functional web page and all that kind of stuff to operate. We need people who want to put the work in and do the work, because all of us are busting our asses trying to do everything we can to grow this. We need the drivers to step up and get organized and try to do the same. And that's the way we're going to grow things. So anyway, reach out to me, guys, if you know anybody or if you want to get involved. It's important. Let's work together and grow this. So anybody else have anything they want to put in on that, or anything else KOH related before we move on?
I do want to thank all the competitors that we did have come out, because I mean, we had only a handful that showed up that have competed in at least one event, and that being our first place and second place with Brett Dickey and his dad Matt. They have competed in 2 events last year. Mad Cow did compete in our event at Field and Forest last year. However, it was a loaner car. And I believe the only other one, or there's Sawyer, because Sawyer competed
Both Brassininis.
at the first event last year. And then
Mike would
I
have been
mean Dave,
running, but his car wasn't ready. So yeah.
exactly. I mean, but they were all out there, the whole Brassanini family.
Yep. Yep.
And then I mean Dave Cole. I
Yeah,
mean,
Dave Cole.
he came, he showed up, he knew what he was doing. He was just
The
out there to
knife,
have fun. He
the
got
knife
his
to the
one gate.
gunfight.
Yeah, Craig
You know,
Allen would have been there, but he was busy doing go fast
he
stuff. He was
was
prepping
doing
for the
double duty as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he was doing the 4400 and everything. But Dave Cole, he was out at the West Virginia event. And then he came out and did qualifying. And then, like you said, Craig Allen, he competed. I mean, he didn't compete at KOH like for us. He was signed up, but he came out to Field and Forest last year as well. But other
Yeah,
than
yeah.
that, it was a brand new field of competitors. And I mean, shout out to them because they put like their work in and they like showed up and they
They
Yeah,
put
were
on
like
yeah,
they
all
put on a
the
party.
drivers.
They
They were like
yeah.
awesome.
Jake
even
Bowen, who won the Texas Top Gun, he's another one. Yeah,
Yes.
lots of guys. Logan Backus and
Bowen,
Tyler
he
Harper. Yep, Jeff McKinley.
well, Jake Bowen, I mean, he was out there on the second course of our main event. He would hit cones, but he's like, I'm going to keep going. I don't care if I get progression. He still wanted to get that gate, whether it was dirty or not. I mean, he went to show that it was drivable. So, like, hats off to him for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's a big thing. I always laugh because everybody says, "Oh, these gates aren't drivable. This is impossible." I guarantee it's funny because I hear that all the time, and then I'll set the same gate the next year, and half the field will drive it. Right? It shows the progression of the sport. So much of it, you live and die by the attitude of everybody who's there. If you go in there and you see the first guy struggle, everybody's going to go, "Oh, that's impossible. We're not going to be." I guarantee you, if you take a group of talented guys and you put them on, there might have been one of those gates there that I'd say may not have been drivable. I know there's one that was bordering on without a stack rock or a spotter strap, or there's one that was really hard. Um, they were all hard. Don't get me wrong, but that's the
that
name of
that
the
one
game.
was overbiting. It definitely
Yeah,
was.
but definitely looking at that, right? Like I guarantee you, if you take guys and you put them on those gates for 20 minutes each gate, you take 5 of the best rock crawlers in the world and throw them at those gates after time, they're going to figure it out and they're going to put a car through it. They come next year,
Well,
I set
after
those same
Jake
gates and they've
did
done them.
those 2 gates, I mean, it seemed like everybody else, like, they saw how he did it and attempted it. I mean, and I feel like that kinda brought back up the momentum. So,
I, I tend to say it a lot when I'm announcing that the sheep like to follow the herd. If
Yeah.
someone can prove that at least one gate's drivable, everyone's going to try to do at least that gate first, just to get it out of the way to get them some points on the board, and then they'll go to the second gate that was drivable, and then it just keeps going that way. Every once in a while, you get someone that is lone wolf and tries different stuff, but a lot of times it's always the same direction, and I'd love to figure out a way to break that up, so people don't
You
stay in a
get the
one
best
gate for too long.
show.
But
You get the best show when you get a group of guys who are hyper competitive and they look at things like a chess match. So, guy A will go in there and he'll try something, and you'll see that guy either succeed or fail, and guy B will say, "Well, he did X, Y, and Z. He uses that as like ammunition. Well, now I'm going to go try this or whatever." And they play off each other and they build off each other, and that's what you need. That's what we're going after. That's what we're trying to get here. We want to get the best rock crawlers in the world. We're handing out $10,000 for first place. We're doing everything we can to get you guys to want to show up. So, and we want to work with you and provide the best product. That's something that people want to compete in. We're always trying to up our game and produce the best product that people want to spectate and people want to compete in. So again, not to beat a dead horse, but this is why we need a competitors association to have these conversations rather than having them on our live stream here while everybody's watching. But anyway,
one
anything
other thing
else
I
on
do wanna
competitors?
bring up was it was really cool to see the like usually at our events, it's either a Jesse Haynes chassis or a Caliph chassis. We had 3 Ironman cars. We had Sasquatch. We had Jesse. We had 2 Caliphs. It was awesome to see. We had a bomber from Dave. It was awesome to see the vast majority going out west of all the different
Definitely.
types of builds.
Yeah, the cool
Yeah.
thing, so Alan Finnis's Sasquatch cars, I believe they're like 110 or 112 wheelbase, 112, something like that. That's actually helpful for some of this big vertical stuff. So I was happy to see one of those in the field for sure. Yep.
Sorry, window nets are safety concerned, Mr. Mundy. We gotta have window nets. We gotta have battery hold downs. We gotta have. And you don't want to run a window net. If you want to put armor straights on, we'll deal with that too. That's fine. But you gotta have one or the other.
Window
Um,
net is honestly, it's the look for what we're trying to do with the sport, right? When people fire suits and window nets more than anything else. I'm not saying that they don't have a safety place, they 100% do. But race drivers wear fire suits, not blue jeans and work boots, right? And race cars have window nets. Again, if we're trying to like grow the sport, that's the look you need to create. So I understand everybody gripes about these types of things, but again, you got to look at the bigger picture, fellas. You got to. We've been doing this for too long to be fighting over stuff like this, but noted. I get it. I know Monday's been beating the drum on window nets for as long as we've had this conversation. So I get it. I know he's still in the same place, but
So
honestly,
Cord, at Wade,
last
we're
year there was 2
talking.
times that if it didn't have window nets, we probably would have people that was pretty seriously injured. To be honest,
they
at
will
least
keep
twice.
certain things from coming in at you, which is how people get hurt. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to stop a boulder, but they will stop a lot of things, small like sticks and things that could spear you. Yeah. Yeah. They're good for that.
So one other cool thing at KOH was Cord. You got to
Sit front row
become
seat.
sit front row seat. Um, I got the privilege to do the 170 class with you and everything like that as you towed the little side by
Yeah, it was
side
fun.
back to the pits. But you
It,
got
it
like your whole certification, everything for Ultra 4 to be a
recovery guy.
recovery.
Yep. Yep, I went to the class, did all the fun stuff. I don't know if I learned anything per se, but we are allowed to do any of the recovery for Ultra Four. If I show up at an event at this point, they know what I can do. They know me. Um, I got to do a lot of cool things while we were there. The 170 class, when me and Tiffany were towing the 170. Uh, Shannon Campbell followed us around and started taking video of us, and then thought I was Rory. And so then me and Rory from Trailmater, we kept seeing each other and going, "Hey Rory, hey Rory, hey Rory, hey Rory," and that gained up. It's one of the things I say. I got a lot of new friends out of this. Luckily, I used Rory because I ended up breaking both ball joints out of my truck on top of idle issues. We were winching one of the EMC cars, and well, he was winching to me, and he ran out of winch rope, so I figured I'd just put the truck in reverse. Well, I guess when I backed up, I put all my truck's weight plus all the Ultra 4 cars' weight all on that one front corner of the truck, and my ball joints were like, nope, not having it. So there's a cool video on Trailmater's uh, YouTube of him recovering me off, and we're still working on my end to get my side of the video up. And yeah, so I did a lot of cool things, and I went on a journey one night and ended up in Sunbonnet with the off-road wrecker, which I don't know how many people know KOH area that well. Sunbonnet is not a crazy hard trail, but in the dark, being the only truck out there and everything else, it was probably a place I shouldn't have been by myself, and ended up getting another car out of Sunbonnet, sorry, by myself. And yeah, it was a long night, but it was definitely cool. And I plan to be at Roush for their next event It's in our backyard, so I'll be there. Um, my friend Corey is going to bring out his crew cab tow truck because I still haven't got my truck fixed yet. We don't know if I'm going to get mine done in time. I'm trying to get the Commander done, which is becoming a longer project than I want it to be, but I want it to be done right the first time. I don't want to have to take it apart and do little things like I've done to the red truck over the last 3 years. I want that truck to come out strong and party and not have a problem. Uh, so
Yeah, Cord did a lot of recovery work out at KOH. And shout out Rory Irish, which you guys were talking about, for coming and pulling Cord's truck off of the side of the trail after the knuckle decided to exit the chat. And thanks for plugging us on his channel as well. Appreciate that, Rory, for some of the X-Rock footage. That was cool. But
yeah,
yeah, it was a good event. And Cord, like he said, is going to be the next thing that's going on March. He's going to be at the Ultra 4 event there that they're doing at Roush Creek, work and recovery or whatever he's getting himself involved in. So that's cool. Yep.
Dancing.
Good stuff. Yep.
we've
Seeing
got that
like
going on. We've got Line Mountain coming up. We have the next X Rock event coming up. Mother's Off Road Recovery has a full schedule this year. That is for sure.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Always dancing. You got to
And I
dance. Got to
see
have fun.
John's comment here about needing to keep your arms in when you're out. Yeah, for sure. Wrist restraints do that too, but yeah, one or the other. I mean, window nets have the added benefit of keeping stuff out. And like I said, it just looks the part. Race cars have window nets, it's anyway. But yes, it is absolutely a safety concern as well, for sure. So yeah, one thing I've been asked about a bunch was AOP schedule wise. Everybody's like, "Oh, why aren't you doing the event at AOP?" I just wanted to clear that up. Cord and I went down there and looked at AOP, and they have great terrain for
They do.
what we were doing. Initially, so the problem, anyone who goes to AOP can tell you, if it rains at all, you're not doing any rock crawling at AOP. I mean, it's like ice. The rocks are, it's just completely impossible. And being in Tennessee on the East Coast, rain is always a concern. So my plan was Dave's doing an Ultra 4 event there in June, right? And the plan was we were going to do the X Rock in conjunction with Dave's Ultra 4 race. And that way, not that I want to, have this situation happen, but if it was to rain, right? At least we're not in a situation where all these people drove all the way out there. We have to give all the spectators their money back. We can't put on an event. We can't do anything because of the situation with the rain. If we do it in conjunction with the Ultra 4 race, at least everybody's there. There's still an Ultra 4 race going on. If we had to, God forbid, cancel the X Rock event, it doesn't help the competitors, but at least everybody who's there to spectate isn't completely out of luck and having a dead weekend. So that was my plan, but AOP felt that that was too much for the park to handle to try and do those together. So if that's their feelings, I respect that, but I didn't want to roll the dice on that. So that is why we're not at AOP, fellas. That's the reasoning
The,
behind that.
the other reason is there's some cutting that has to be done that we'd have to get down and do, or find someone to be able to do it as well. So that's another trip that we're gonna have to plan. So maybe we can get down there and trim if we plan to try to do something next year and get something lined up for 2026. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's absolutely terrain there. I just don't want to create a situation where if it rains, we're completely SOL. I don't ever want to be in that situation. If it rains anywhere else, we can still host a rock crawl. It may be,
Yeah.
somewhat truncated or whatever, but it's, we can still function. Whereas down there, if it rains, you're completely incapable of moving over anything the size of a grapefruit. So,
Yeah, I went down there with Sam Fabian when we did when he was doing uh Renegades on the Ridge racing, and we couldn't even pre-run the one day because it was so wet down there. We could barely make it out of the parking lot. It was ridiculous.
yeah. So anyway, what we will be doing instead, since we're sticking with the concept of growth and big events, is an event called the PA Mudfest uh, in the end of May. It's Memorial Day weekend. It's a real cool event. It's at our home facility that we've, designed the area there and previous owner, now deceased, named that ridge line after my son. So shout out to Brian Rich Jr. Thank you for that, Brian. Anyway, yeah,
Super awesome dude.
super awesome situation. Excited to be back at Famous Reading. We always love putting on events there. They got great terrain, and the guy who's putting on that event is named Ryan Storm. Really good guy. If anybody wants to check out that event in more detail, he's saying he's expecting something like 12,000 people this year. It's going to be a large event, right? And it's not just rock crawling. They have it's the closest thing I could come up with to something like a KOH type of scenario on the East Coast. They got all sorts of activities like, mud bogging and, these big mega trucks and all this stuff. They doing like downhill Barbie Jeep racing. It's
Yeah.
got a big vendor area, food trucks, vendors and
Bands.
people there to band. Yeah, there are all kinds of well-known large name bands playing every night. It's a big thing. So yeah, all you
And it's
guys
a family event.
definitely
So like
come
people
check
are
it out.
hearing about the mud bogging and whatever. If anybody's familiar with that type of um,
Event.
atmosphere,
We're gonna have our
it's
own.
for people of all ages though. I mean, there are kids there. They do have stuff for the kids as well. So
We're
um,
we're in the
it is
process of
more
putting our
family.
own area in there. So all our competitors and stuff are going to be in our own spot, unless you want to be out with all the other people, and then that's your business, I guess. I can't stop you from doing that. But we're creating our own compound there where all of you guys are able to park with your families and whatever. So you don't have to be in the middle of the whole hustle and bustle of a big mud event like that. Anyway, what's cool about it is, and I got apparently Redding's working on that as we speak. Chris was just saying that
Yes.
they started brush hogging that spot out, which is cool.
Today.
Yeah, today. So shout out Reading on that. But yeah, what's neat is there's a huge untapped audience. All these guys that are into these big, ag tire mega trucks, they're like Motorhead type of people, but they don't necessarily have any experience with rock crawlers. So these guys are going to be able to walk over and see what we're doing with these rock crawlers. And that, again, growth, that's the name of the game, growth of the sport. All these people, a huge, tens of thousands of people are able to be exposed to this who wouldn't necessarily be exposed to it before. And as you guys know, when you see this in person, the stuff we're doing with these cars, and they can walk up and talk to the drivers and sign an autograph, hopefully that translates into new spectators and new growth and new interest. And yeah, so we're excited about that event. I know I am anyway. I think it's going to be a great
Yeah, I think I'm
experience.
going to have both Ryan Storm on towards the end of April, beginning of May. And then another week, I'll have Shawnee, who does all the social media for
Famous Reading.
famous,
Yeah.
famous Reading, because we talked, Hans mentioned about Brian Rich. One of the best things I think that happened is one of Brian's best friends is still involved in the management style of it. So he knows what Brian's vision was for Famous Reading. So it's pretty cool to work with Andrew as well, but he does not like to be on camera.
Yeah, he's a more behind the scenes type of guy. Him and
He's
Doc both, I would
he's
figure. But
silly.
yeah, they're both great fellas, though. Great guys to work with.
Mhm.
Fantastic guys.
Andrew and Doc are awesome. And then, you'll meet Shawnee any off-roading event here on the East Coast, like especially your Pennsylvania area. He's out there. He was just out at Motorama last week. He's always out there with promoting Field and Forest, Famous Riding Outdoors.
Yeah,
Wow.
speaking
Keep
of
them
that,
keep them right.
we're getting
Checking
calls
my notes here, buddy.
constantly
We're still
rolling
we're
in
still
from new landowners that want us to do events. Our 2026 calendar is starting to fill out. I know Rob Lucero from Area BFE was on the other week. He wants to put on an event. I know there's quality stuff there over by Black Flag that we could use. So we'll have to check that out. I got something coming up in April that I can't really get into right now, but I think Cord and I are going to make a trip to check out a couple new potential facilities and do some consulting work on some stuff with that. So that'll be cool.
I'm
I spoke
I'm gonna
with,
duct tape Hans to the chair and the passenger seat so I don't have to talk to him while we're driving again.
no, geez. Um, yeah, we're going to, I talked to Bob and Eliza for Sawinski, yesterday and this morning. They're,
Field and Forest.
interested in having us come up. Yeah, so speaking of Field and Forest, they said they're interested in potentially having us back for 2026. So that's cool. Yeah, lots of growth. Like I said, growth is the name of the game, guys. That's always forward. Everything we can do to work together and move the sport forward. We're trying, and I think we're succeeding. So that's what we just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and we'll get there as long as we all work together. Yeah, which leads us on to the next event. I guess the final event of the season is going to be over at Chaos Off Road Park. That's shout out John Rubenstein, great guy, the owner of Chaos there. For the first time, we've been doing events at Chaos, and there's some great stuff there on the top of the mountain, but they've never allowed the general public access to the park up until this point. It was always a private, closed event. So it was just competitors and family. And I spoke to John and I said, John, it's a shame. We really got to open this up since this year we're trying to get growth. We got to put something together. And he says, all right. So he's got a structure where he's going to allow rec wheeling and, outsiders to come in. And you will need your own vehicle because those who haven't been to Chaos, it's all the way at the top of the mountain where we operate, and where you camp is down at the bottom of the mountain. And, not many people are going to want to hike up. Like I said, unless you're Mike Fox, you're probably not hiking up the side of that mountain. So,
I
Carl's
definitely
on
wouldn't.
here, so he can attest to that.
yeah, well, I've watched Mike run down the mountain. Yeah, he was here a couple of years ago, and yeah, no problem for a guy like him. A guy like myself, however, I'm telling you, I am not walking up the side of that mountain. So yeah, you'll need to have a vehicle, and John, can release more information on how he's going to structure all that. But there will be spectator passes that you'll be able to come in with your vehicle and camp and do. They'll have guided trail rides. There's a group of guys that help out and put on events there. As far as leading guided groups, every now and again they do. Training and things for Red Cross and people of that nature, government entities and things like that. So they've got a system of people who can lead trail rides. We're going to bring those guys in. That's going to be a great weekend because it's a fantastic little park. John and Zach and those guys, they do a great job. Running that operation, and people deserve to see it. So I'm looking forward to that as well, and I think they are too. So.
John is like an amazing host and everything else. And
Yes,
we'll
thank
have
you.
him
Absolutely.
on before that event to make sure, because that we did have some hiccups there last year with like the packing in, packing out, no glass bottles, but we'll make sure we have John on to go over those type of rules.
Yep, for sure. Um, yeah, so growth, like I said, that's it. That's the name of the game. Everything we're doing is focused on trying to create steady forward progress in the sport, which we've been trying to do for the past however many years. So let's work together, make it happen. New
So,
venues,
so speaking
expanded
of that,
coverage.
you kind of stirred the pot last week about
Me?
this growth and everything else. You went onto Facebook and you put up this post with this new idea concept. Can we kind of talk about that?
Oh, the Iron Man class. Yeah. So you know, I look at what we're doing, and I know that there's so many guys, and they talk to me, call me or whatever, message me and say, oh, I love what you're doing, but I got this hammered Toyota that looks like, you crumpled a soda can up in your hand or whatever. Like, these are guys who are clearly not afraid to like party with their trucks, man. They will roll the thing over, put it through all kinds of gnarly terrain, but it would be silly for them to try and go head to head with a competition moon car if to enter X Rock. So they're always like, what can we do? Is there something we, It makes sense. I mean, we don't have a class for stuff like that, but it's absolutely entertaining to watch those guys. You know what I
It's
mean? It
entertaining with
really is.
Jason Lee Mundy. I had to put his post up about that.
Yeah. Yeah. No comment on the window nets. Yeah. But yeah,
Yes, window nets are
Ironman
going to be
class.
needed.
The concept would be
Jesus.
two trail cars, real trail cars, things with a cooler and 15-gallon gas tank that actually get used on hard trails, as opposed to dedicated comp cars. You know, and people say, "Oh, well, that's what you'd run in." Yes, technically, someone could make the argument that like a Caliph car is technically a two. I mean, those guys are always going to be where they belong. Nobody who is at that level is going to sandbag and try and run against the
We're
amateur guys. You know, it's just not. If
we're
you're
talking
that kind
about
of fella,
something that we're talking about something that has like real frame rails and started with a body, not a tube chassis car.
or like
You're
no, I mean an old school tube chassis car. There's tons of those out there too, and they're not all that much more capable than something like a truggy Toyota with 2 feet of frame rail left. I mean, it's very comparable, but the point is the guys who have like 1.5 seater front engine cars right now, you're not going to see those guys sandbagging and running in the Ironman like amateur class. If we were to create such a thing, they wouldn't do it. It's just not. They're out there to run, you know, the big show for $10,000 and push the sport and run with the best and the biggest and, you know, on the gnarliest stuff. This would be for guys to show up and show out who have like, you know, built in their garage, you know, 30 pack of beer type of vehicles. You know what I mean? That's they're out there. You see them everywhere you go. Heck, at KOH, I mean, you can't like shake a stick without knocking into 5 or 6 of those things anywhere you drive. So it's the demand is there and it's entertaining. The reason I would think about something like that is because those guys can put on a show that everybody likes to see, the same as a professional X Rock type. It would obviously be different, easier courses, and it wouldn't be for $10,000 payouts. But you know, the entry fees would reflect that. It would be an amateur class for hardcore rec wheeling folks that actually wheel. So I don't know. It was incredibly well received. That's what I can tell you. Everybody seemed to say this is a great idea. So.
yes, absolutely. I would, be in their window calling them a
Yeah.
sandbagger if anybody was coming in that class. Loud as I
Mark
can
my
on my
words. Nobody's
loud
gonna.
as I can. Loud as I can on my PA system.
Yeah, nobody's gonna do that. They're just not that kind. That's not how those guys roll. Yeah. So.
It's like me when I used to run the pickup in mod stock. That's the stuff I want to see.
Yeah, I mean, people like it's cool to watch guys who are obviously not afraid to roll their stuff over. It's hammered, it gets used. They're gonna put on a show. Like those guys, they're doing this anyway. They're out there doing this, right? They want to show up and show out. So if we give them a platform to do that, I don't know. I think it's an interesting concept. I mean, I haven't
We
committed
definitely
to
have to
doing
dig into
anything
that
like that
further.
yet. But yeah, so anybody who wants to talk further about Ironman class, I don't know. We can have a conversation about Ironman class. Hit me up, whatever. We can do a live on it or something specific to that if there's enough interest, which there seems to be. So yeah,
You
another
talked
time
about
for
like
something.
the
Yeah.
expanding and everything else, and Mark Shea is on here, and I can't thank him enough. He came out, he spent how many days with us,
Yep.
hung out with us at camp, and not only just took amazing photos, he did the editing and he helped with the posting up so everybody can get like most of his pictures. So if anybody's
Yep.
looking for any of the pictures, where there's no watermarks or anything else that has been posted up on our X Rock Facebook page, make sure you reach out to Mark Shea because he did amazing. I mean, we had a lot of amazing photographers. I am still working through, I have a bunch of photographers sent me stuff. So anybody's
Well,
looking for
Mark.
pictures from that event, reach out.
I believe Mark has stuff for sale too. Like, I mean, in
Yes.
addition to the stuff, if you have pictures, you know, you can reach out to Mark and he can set you up with a package or whatever for pictures of your car, specifically if you're interested in that. He does have watermarked stuff. So,
But that was a
Yeah,
huge thing with the expanding and growth is, the everything that Mark did. And, shout out to all our media, Eric Amato, everybody. We had a ton of there. So it was
The
pretty cool to see.
KOH drone guy. That was some of the most impressive. I don't.
Dude,
If I was Jeff McKinley, I would have been losing my mind because it would have distracted
dude,
me.
he flew right
I
in
watched
the
him.
Kedley's car,
I,
like kind of flew next to him and then flew back out of the thing. I was like, whoa.
I watched him fly it underneath of it and through the gap between the upper and lower link in like 8 inches of space. It was ridiculous. I was like, okay, at speed. It wasn't like, that, yeah, whoever was flying that drone, I'm sure he got some pretty epic
He's a
footage.
he is a
That was
boss.
a
That is for
KOH
sure.
production guy, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that was
Yep.
cool. My the most entertaining thing that happened at that event was there was a guy in an OBS Bronco with his girlfriend, and they were driving, and they look up and they see it was either Jeff or Brett up in
It
that
was
tippy
Jeff.
top notch. So from the bottom, that looked utterly ridiculous looking at, and you hear her over the whole thing scream, "Holy bleep, 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 bleep." Back up and point, and she's yelling and like punching her boyfriend, like, do you see that up there? That's what we're trying to do. That's what makes X-Rock cool. Anybody who sees that, they know what they're looking at. So yeah, we're doing what we need to do, fellas. We just got to keep doing what we need to be doing and move in the forward direction. Growth, like I said. Semper Diemkis. Always forward.
Using all those smart Latin languages with us.
Yeah, I didn't understand a word he just said.
It's Latin.
Dumb it
is
down for us
pretending to
folks
be
over
smart.
here. It's all the hair. We cut his hair off. Would it ruin his smartness? Nope.
I told Brock that I was going to do the live with the long-haired, bearded butthead.
Love you
I
too,
asked him if I
Jeff.
should call Hans that on live. He told me no, but here we are.
Here we are.
So other than window nets, does anybody, I know we have a bunch of people on, does anybody else have any questions for us?
Let's do a live just about window nets. How about that? 2.5 hours on window nets.
I will not be there because I will rip someone's head off. I just can't. I like just thinking about how simple of a thing it is, and people want to really complain about it. Like, I ran the window net on the F-150. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, just do it. It doesn't really affect the way you crawl. You're in
It's a
belts.
$30 window net on your $250,000 crawler. It is a serious budget infraction. I know. Like,
Yeah.
$30.
Well, I mean, I think the whole setup's like 67 off Jegs.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
Tough. I know it's hard to. Yeah.
It's really, and it comes with the buckle and everything right off the kit. Like.
But next week, I know John's on here now. Mad Cow's going to be joining me. Mad Cow has an interesting backstory, and we're going to get to know him. I know, like, some people have heard it, but this man holds world records in something that you would not think a professional rock crawler would hold. So we're going to have him on too, and we're going to talk to him and get to know him a little better. So I'm pretty excited about that. Mad Cow took second place. He has competed into two of our events. It was pretty cool at our qualifying in Johnson Valley. I announced that he had cowbells on his pop-up tent.
Cowbells. Ding, 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 ding.
And
More
I'm like,
cowbell.
come on, let's I think he I don't know how many. I'll have to ask him next week how many he had hanging up for people to take, and they were all gone by the end of qualifying.
You understand that's a thing, right? For the Swiss downhill skiers, like there's a history there. That's why it's pretty cool. It's a cool thing. I get it. It's cool.
I was gonna get into that next week.
There you go. So
I just I like how he calls his car high stakes, and I was making fun of him during qualifying because he wasn't having such a good time. And I was like, man, that thing's gonna be on the grill by the end of its run.
Flame broiled. Oh,
No,
that's
but
fun.
I'm definitely interested to talk to Mad Cow next week, and you know, we'll have some fun things to talk about. I think
Yeah,
Cord, you're
looking
gonna hang
forward to
out
that.
with us next week too.
As far as I'm aware, unless the world falls apart.
I don't know. In Pennsylvania, it's been snow and
Thursday
ice nonstop.
Thursday nights are my night off, so it does kind of work out.
Not anymore, buddy. You're like hanging out with me. But
Oh, such a tough life. I gotta hang out with Tiffany. Oh Jesus.
I know it. But guys, is there anything else that we need to cover? I'm checking my notes. Hans, Mr. Smart Man over there with your clipboard. What about your notes?
I'm good. Yeah, I think we got everything we need to talk about. Unless you guys
I
have
don't
something, we can wrap it
I
up.
don't have any notes, so I missed
Just
that.
want to
I missed that memo.
Cord's pretty
thank our
awesome
sponsors,
of
obviously.
having the ambition to always have notes, but that man does never. You never have
Uh, I
notes. You
I
have those hopes and dreams, but never
the
actually
worst
have
the
them.
worst part is a lot of times I write them out. I either leave them behind, or I leave them at a restaurant, at an airport, or um or I just say I'm going to do it and have ADHD and just never
Or I hand
finish
you
them.
my handwritten notes or screenshots right before an event and be like, "Here."
I can
Yeah.
attest to this. I've been multiple places where Cord's like, "Let me get my notes." Oh wait, they're on like my coffee table at my house, 3,000 miles away.
Our like one of our
My
last meetings, he talked about I think we must have gotten like probably like 30 messages about Cord having notes. And
I had like
he
two
goes
pages of
up.
notes and totally left them in my other jacket or something while I was there because
And
I
Come to
changed
think of
into
it,
like a nicer clothes.
I
but
don't think
we're
there's ever been a
also
time that you've had notes. Like I think that anytime you've made notes, they have not actually made. I don't think I can remember notes
You
ever
watched me
but
actually
make
we're
the
made.
notes.
the
Yeah.
You watched me
but
make the
we're all
notes at
the
the restaurant and the
dummies
airport, and we just
who
totally left them behind.
but the rest of us are the dummies knowing when Cord says he has notes, nobody ever gets a copy of said notes right away.
Yes,
Sounds
So
about
it's
right.
just as much as our fault.
my bad. Hey, I
But
have too many hats. I have to change this hat and change that hat, change this hat. So I can't keep everything straight. You gotta lose with me somewhere. I'm always either late or I forget what I need. So you can't have both,
our last
unfortunately.
meeting, you were late with no
Yes.
2 pages
With
of
no
notes either.
notes. So
All right, Tiff,
let's
you
But,
want to
wrap
roll
up.
us out with
guys, we're gonna
sponsors?
wrap it up.
I
I wanna thank you guys
was
for
just
hanging
about to
out
say
with
that.
us.
You want me to spin off the
Um,
sponsors?
hey,
Yeah,
you wanna try
somebody.
it?
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, I can do it. Don't you worry. Thank you to JM Rigging, Core's mother's off-road recovery. As I mess up my own name. I love it. It's great. Let's get 386 Fab, Radial Dynamics, and Wheeling for Warriors. Is there one more? Kincaid
Yes.
Kincaid.
Fabrication. Thank you all. You making this year special. We're always looking for more sponsors. So if anybody knows anybody or wants to hear from us or support us, please reach out. Let us know. We would love it. I think we're doing great things, and everybody standing behind us makes it even go further. So let's get this done.
Yep.
Yes.
Competitors Association guys, reach out to me. Let's get that back functional so we can create growth.
Any other questions from now until next Thursday? Please reach out to Hans, Cord, or myself, and we will gladly try to get you the answer. Maybe not the answer you want, but we will get you something.
A
Absolutely.
Thanks,
bumper sticker
guys.
that says "Ask me about my window net." That's what.
I'm gonna get stickers for everybody. I'll get that made. I'm gonna make that happen. Ask me about my window net. X Rock Extreme.
All right,
All right,
guys.
guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you next Thursday night with John Mad Cow Hemble.
Yep. Night, fellas, ladies, everybody.
Adios. Be safe. Don't work too hard.